Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Danny and today I am going to be reading some of your recommendations with you guys so you can see what my thoughts are. These recommendations came from a video that I did back in November for Thanksgiving, just giving you guys thanks for being around and forming this little community that I love. And so I wanted to, throughout the year of 2026, read some of those recommendations from you guys so you can kind of come along with me as I'm reading them. So I believe in this vlog I'm going to be covering 3 or 4 books depending on time. One of the books that I plan on reading for this, I did just get a physical copy from my library, and so Rosemary and Rue is top of my list. This is by Chalion. It was recommended by Julie over at Keep Calm with Books and Coffee, and it features a PI detective, I believe, who is trying to solve some type of a murder. She is a changeling PI, so she's half fae, half human, which I'm really interested to get into that aspect because I really do like the idea of changelings and the worlds that can kind of be created around them, so I'm excited about that. I don't really know much else. I have liked Chalion in the past, so I am excited to give her another try. I have only read, I guess I've read horror and fantasy by Chalion. I read the Wayward Children series. I've only read half of it, and then I read Into the Drowning Deep by her pseudonym Myra Grant, and I liked both of those. So I am excited to jump into another series by an author I have enjoyed. The second book I actually own a copy of. This is recommended by Jen, and Jen is recommending that I reread a favorite. And I have The Goblin Emperor was what was suggested. I have absolutely loved this in the past. I've loved the companion series to it as well, so I am looking forward to diving back into this world. This follows a half goblin, half elf character who is thrust upon the throne when not really being prepared because he had 3 older brothers. He was not really ever thought to need to be prepped to be on the throne because his brothers were going to take his place or take the emperor's place long before he would. But his dad and all 3 of his brothers end up dying in an air crash, and he is thrust into this powerful position that he's not really prepared for. And in my first read of it several years ago, I have absolutely loved Maya's character and being in his head, so I'm excited to get back to this one. And then lastly, the last book that I have kind of on the docket is Dragonflight by Anne McCaffrey, and this one was recommended by Julia. And I will say that this is probably the one I am most nervous for because this book, I was along the ride when my husband was reading this. We ride together for work, and so he was listening to an audiobook, and I didn't read the whole story with him because usually I like plug in my headphones and listen to my own book, but I did hear bits and pieces of it and then him talking about it, and I'm just not sure that it's going to be my cup of tea. I know that it was written back in the 60s. It features dragons and time travel, and I think a girl who is at the center of all of it who ends up being like the savior at the end of the day, and that's really all I know. But I will say I'm a little nervous, and Julia does mention this in the comment that you left on that last video was, you know, it is a product of its time, so being that it was written in the 60s, it is going to have some views on women and some treatment of women that is a little different than what would be the expectation today. So I am keeping that in mind as I go into it, but it does make me just a little bit nervous of the story. But I am excited to get to it because The Dragon Riders of Pern is a very pivotal work to the fantasy and sci-fi genres. I think that Anne McCaffrey really spearheaded a lot of things, and I'm interested in seeing the reference material that I know some of the books that I've dearly loved that are more recent publications have pulled from Anne McCaffrey's works in the past. So I am excited to see that aspect of it. So without further ado, those are the 3 books that I'm planning on reading. We'll see if I get to any more, but I will update you whenever I read one of them. I'll see you guys in the next clip. I am here with an update on Rosemary and Rue. I've gotten a little bit over 40% of the way through this book, and I'm surprised at how quickly it's reading. I am reading this physically, and so I just assumed that I was going to have to take more time with it. And I will say, when I started it, it did take me several days to get through the first maybe 3 chapters, but after that I read everything that I've gotten through in one sitting. So I do think that the beginning was a little slow for me, mainly because I didn't quite know if the character was going to be someone, like the main character, October Day, was going to be someone I liked the voice of. Because in the first chapter, the prologue of this book, you are following October 14 years in the past when she is kind of at the top of her game. She's a PI for a pure-blooded fae named Sylvester, who is her liege, which there are some ties that you learn about what that really means for a changeling like October. And as you're following October on a mission to find out what happened to Sylvester's wife and daughter, she is tailing someone, another pure-blooded fae. And you learn a lot about the magic system within this prologue, about the fact that changelings have less magic than purebloods, and how she has kind of had to learn to figure out some tricks of the purebloods to tail certain individuals. And she does all of that, pulls out all the stops to track down this person, which puts her in a little bit of a pickle because they end up putting her into a situation that she can't get out of, and then they put a spell on her and she becomes a fish, a koi fish, for 14 years. The reason I wasn't really enjoying this aspect of the story or the voice of October Day in the prologue is because I do find her character in the prologue a little cocky, and it's very much a detective telling you their story, which they're going to embellish, right? They're going to talk about their skills as though, you know, they're the best or whatever. And it was a little like that, and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to really enjoy being in someone's head that's like this. But after she becomes a fish, she lives 14 years as a fish, comes out of it. Her entire life has changed, because before she became the fish, she had a significant other, and then she also had a daughter that she had looked forward to going home to and had kind of a life built, and she disappeared for 14 years. And so those things have changed after she has gotten out. She obviously doesn't have a job anymore. She is traumatized from this amount of life that that has been taken from her. She also doesn't have a lot of memories of that time frame because she literally had the brain of a fish as well. And you learn about like the glamour, I don't know if that's what it was called, that was put on her to turn her into a fish. You learn about how that impacted her and the potential for her to really stay that way for the rest of her life. And so there is some trauma there as well, that she was very lucky in some of her circumstance that she ever got to become a human again. And after that change, we do see her, I think in the second chapter, very much being a recluse, pulling into herself, not wanting to do with anybody around her, anybody from her past life. And that part, I was like, okay, well, I think, sadly, I think I liked her character after she had kind of been through something. I thought that there was something to grab onto there, but I was like, is it going to be all gloom and doom as well? And I know, like, I was complaining on both ends, but I do find now that she has a path, because we have her now solving the murder of one of her friends. And it happened in a very gruesome way. She ends up getting a voice message from this person who was trying to reach out to her, trying to get her to answer, and that person ends up getting murdered. And October Day has to put her skills into play to figure out what happened to this individual. And I have really enjoyed it. I really like the world building. I like there are these things called night dwellers that actually explain away the fact that the fae don't age and that their bodies, when they die, don't decay. And the author, Shauna McGuire, went into how specifically the fae's bodies do decay because of these night dwellers. I'm not going to go into why, because I think it's just a really interesting thing to learn as you're going through the book. But lots of little things like that, the magic systems. The only thing I will complain about is there is a lot of repetition, especially with the smells of magic. Each person has their own almost odor with their magic system, and that is repeated quite a bit. I'm assuming it's going to be important because it'll be a clue of sorts whenever she goes into certain locations and smell certain magics, it's going to point her in a certain direction. So I think that that's why it's there so often. But I think it could have been dialed back just a little bit, because it does kind of pull me out of the story, especially the smell of roses, which is the person that she is trying to solve the murder of. So that part, I do like it. I like the aspect of magic having a signature of sorts. I just think it's a little done over and over and over and over again. I also have enjoyed all of the characters that we've gotten thus far that are in or were in October's life. So at this point, we have met someone from her past that kind of helped her as a changeling. This person has a lot of other changelings that they quote unquote take care of in a very not great situation, and you have some turmoil there within October, knowing that this person is not a good person, but also missing that type of life as well, missing this person. You also get to meet her liege, Sylvester, and you get to find out about what happened to Sylvester's wife and daughter, which I thought was interesting. So lots of characters that are moving, and you're also in San Francisco. So we are in a familiar location, but I do think that there is enough detail surrounding how the Fae move about in this world that make it that fantasy realm. I really like the bits and pieces surrounding the different types of Fae that we have in the world, because even though they're pure bloods, they do have different family trees, I guess, that would give them different powers and different characteristics. She herself, October Day, has a type of Fae blood in her that will allow her to use blood to see memories of people, and that was used in a really cool way. So I do think there's a lot of pieces moving within this world that I am enjoying, and I'm excited to continue on. I am fascinated by the world that is created, and I think the ability to take this character and continue the series as well. I don't know if we're going to get a through line within this, because I know that there are a ton of books in the October Day series, which I'm excited about. I don't know if they're each going to be individual mysteries or if we are going to have a storyline all the way through. So I'm excited to find out about that, but I will check back in with you whenever I have another update, probably when I finish the book. I am here for my final update for Rosemary and Rue. And unfortunately, guys, the end and wrap up of this story really didn't work for me. So unfortunately, I am going to be rating this a 2.5 star. I have a lot of respect for the world that is created in this, and I am really intrigued by the Fae, the differences between purebloods and changelings, and all of these various creatures that inhabit Fae in the human world that we all know, and how they interact with humans, how they hide themselves from humans, how the daylight and the dawn affects them. There are so many really cool things that I liked about what Shauna McGuire did about this world, and so the world building was there for me. I do wish that we would have focused a little bit more on it than we did. The elements of this story that didn't work for me, and I can't go into a lot of depth because I don't want to spoil anything for you guys if you do want to try this, but the toxic relationship that is in this story is one I don't like to read about. Toxic relationships. It's not something that I enjoy. I understand that they happen, and so I understand why an author would choose to depict it in a world. It's just not something I want to read about. And I also think that some of the decisions that were made the world unnecessarily bleak at the end. Once again, I can't tell you much about why I have that viewpoint, but that part I was a little disappointed with. And then honestly, the major disappointment for me, and what kind of kept me reading until the end, because I probably would have DNF'd this had I known that the mystery components weren't going to come to fruition for me, and they weren't going to really impress me, because this, at the end of the day, is supposed to be a story about October Day, who is a PI, and can put the clues together and solve a murder. That's what she's supposed to be doing. And throughout this entire book, I just found conveniences. I didn't really see any valid detective work from her. And even some of the abilities that she has that allow her to find some hints or some clues that other people wouldn't be able to find, I just found them a little lackluster, to be honest, and convenient. Once again, I wasn't super impressed with her, and that's unfortunate because I do think that her character is intriguing. I really liked her backstory and the things that she went through to get where she is, as far as, you know, her losing the life that she had. But yeah, I didn't, she was not a believable PI for me, I suppose, in the story. And then to kind of piggyback off of that, I know that some people really, really love this, but I do also think that some of the characters to me, especially our murder victim Evening, I don't think are super well fleshed out because of the fact that they are murdered so early on and we never see her on page. We just are getting information from October, who very much admits that she doesn't know that she really understood Evening in the end. And so I think her character was a little fuzzy to me because of that. So yeah, unfortunately, this one just didn't work. So I will not be continuing on with this series. I will still read by Shauna McGuire. There's lots of other books by this author that I do want to try. It's just this series is not one that I will continue with. Here to give you guys an update on Dragonflight. I have made it to, I think, 50%. I've read parts 1 and parts 2, and I know that there are 4 parts in the book total, so I'm just assuming that I'm halfway through. And I am pleasantly surprised. I know I told you guys in the intro that this was the book that I was the most fearful for because I've heard some things from my husband, and it's an older book, and so I'm a little hesitant just because of some of the things that were very prevalent in fantasy books back then. And I will say that I am pleasantly surprised. I've really enjoyed the story. I do think that I'm happy that I had the expectation of women being treated very poorly in this society and our main character being treated really poorly because of the fact that she is a woman. So I thank my husband for giving me that little heads up on the fact that that does happen in the story. So just so you guys know that that is something that happens. We are following our main character, Lessa, and I really liked the development of her character in the beginning and finding out that she was originally she was meant to rule the city that she is in, and this usurper took over who has just completely devastated the land and rules by force. He also treats the women in his charge like essentially a brood house, and he wants women who are docile and has killed everyone in the kingdom who has any lick of desire to not be suppressed, essentially. So Lessa is, because of the fact that she was in a city that was usurped and she was the heir, she puts herself into hiding by putting herself in the lowliest position that she can get. I can't remember what they call her position, but she works in the kitchen, she cleans out the fireplaces, she'll do like any of the dirty work that the people in like the upper class doesn't want to do. And she tries to hide from people, but instead of just hiding, she also puts herself into positions where she can sabotage the city leadership, which I find fascinating. I enjoyed hearing her kind of be a little conniving and clever in what she does to the bread to make the bread burn or not cook, and the people that she ends up getting rid of who are loyal to the type of person who did usurp the kingdom, and how she goes about doing that and putting people in place that she thinks she would be able to rule over and that won't inhibit her from her inevitable goal, which is killing this person and taking over her rightful heirship of this little kingdom that she has. So I liked her character quite a bit. We also have Philar, who I enjoyed. He is a bronze dragon rider, and they are in search for a werewoman. So within this kingdom, you have the dragon riders who also have a dragon queen, and that dragon queen has to bond with a human. So all of the dragons who have dragon riders are bonded to their dragon rider. There are a whole bunch of rules surrounding that. And then you also have the dragon queen who has to bond with a woman. And so they are looking for a strong and powerful woman to take this place because a new dragon egg has been laid that is a female dragon, is going to be the next dragon queen. And so they need a woman who is strong enough to fulfill the leadership role that she will be put in with the queen dragon. Now, clearly, that's a problem within this kingdom because all of the women who have any tenacity have been executed or beaten down so much that they no longer can fulfill this role. And so he comes in and looks for this werewoman and ends up finding Lessa. I'm not going to give you too much more of the plot because I don't want to spoil anything, but that's the general start of this. I did really enjoy Philar's character and him having to interact with Fax, who is the guy who took over Lessa's original city, and how crappy of a person he is, and how Philar can get around this person's attitude and little digs that he makes at the dragon riders trying to produce a reaction. I enjoyed being in Philar's head when he's thinking about how he needs to be passive and he needs to be able to take it on the chin because he doesn't want to have this person get a rise out of him, putting him in a situation that he has to do something that he shouldn't be doing that's not for the best. It's not for the betterment of the kingdom, I suppose, is what I'm trying to say. So I enjoyed that aspect. I also have enjoyed, we have some conversations surrounding the, I guess, usefulness, or not usefulness, but connection of the dragons and the humans and what that means. So that has been intriguing to learn about. I am a little confused with the politics and how things work, why certain things being lesser now than they were in the past, and that's actually impacting the kingdom at a very great scale that I'm not quite sure of. But overall, I am enjoying it. I think that it's an interesting story. I do think that the way women are treated in that one little town, and then also how Lessa is treated whenever she gets to the part where she is brought to fulfill this bigger role, and they kind of treat her like she needs to snap out of things, even though you know from the beginning that she's a clever woman. And so that it is frustrating to see her kind of be like shaken, and they're like, you know, snap out of it. Like, you need to figure things out. And it's like, yes, shaking a person is definitely going to make them think rationally. Like, good on you. But as long as you kind of know that going in, I don't think that it was as drastic and upsetting as it would have been had I gone in blind. So I will let you guys know what I think at the end of this, and I'm really excited that I am not hating it. I hate to say that, but I really did think that this was just going to be a book I ended up having to DNF, and I'm really, really happy to say that I don't feel the need to DNF at all. I'm very curious as to know what is going to happen with Lessa and the Dragon Queen, and I know that this book has some time travel elements in it as well, and I don't know how we get to there from where we are now. So yeah, I will talk to you guys whenever I have another update. I do have my final update for you guys for Dragonflight. I finished it this morning, gave myself the day to kind of think about where I wanted to rate it and why. And I think I'm gonna give it a 3.5, which honestly, I am happy with. I really did not think I was going to enjoy this. I thought this is going to be a book that I either wanted to DNF or ended up rating lower just because of some of the things, especially regarding women in the story. The elements surrounding the time travel and the dragons and the threads, the essentially the threat to the world of Pern were very interesting. And I did enjoy that aspect of it, the world building. However, the reason I'm not giving it higher than a 3.5, I think that the ending of this, the culminating event, the item that is kind of where we were headed the entire time, was super quick. And it's a pretty intense thing that happens. Lessa essentially has to do something in order to save the world. I'll just leave it as generic as that. And the thing that she does is covered in, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 pages max. So less than 10% of the story is this big culminating event. I think it might be less than the page count that I'm giving it, because it was very like lickety split. And there's not a lot of exploration. People just kind of go with it as far as what she ends up having to do and convince people to do because of this thing. People are just like, okay, let's do it. And I'm like, what? Like no one is going to hesitate and be like, wait, what? You're gonna have to give us some evidence. Like, we need to talk about this. We need to take some time. Like it's just very rushed. And while there are explanations given for why things were rushed, I would have appreciated having maybe 50 to 100 pages just on that big event, because it was such a pivotal thing for the story. I think that I would have liked that to be a little bit more well-rounded and a little bit more detailed. I also will say that the reason this is in the 3-star range versus the 4-star range is because of the characters. There isn't really a lot of character development. We obviously get to know Lessa, we get to know Filar and Fëanor. There are characters that we know more about than others, but this is primarily a world building and plot based story. We don't have a lot of time to get to know the characters' personalities, other than and part of that is because the world is in peril. Like, I understand that there's a reason for it, but I would have liked to have lived a little bit more with them. This is also a shorter book, as I've said, and so I do think that probably played into that a little bit as well. But because of all of those things, that's why it's getting a 3.5 for me. Having read this, I do know that I could stop here. Like, this does feel like a full-fledged story, and that I'm at the end now. I could walk away. I don't know if I want to continue or not. I suppose it depends on where we go from here and who we focus on. I could see myself picking this up as, like, shockingly, this is it was an easy read. So I could see myself picking it up as just I want to know what's happening in that world now, and picking it up. Because I don't feel as though it was complicated enough that I couldn't, pick up the second book 6 months from now. I don't think I would need to reread this. I don't feel like there's a ton of details that I really would need to be able to understand what's going on. Obviously, if that book happens to have some really specific detail or character from the first book, maybe I'm wrong. But if we're just continuing in the world, maybe even traveling to different worlds, I feel like I could follow that pretty easily without having to read this first book again. So my answer to am I going to continue is maybe. So that is my final update for Dragonflight. Thank you for this recommendation. I really am happy that I've gotten to read the Dragon Riders of Pern, because this is such a pivotal work for fantasy. It has definitely been something that a lot of other fantasy and sci-fi books have leaned on for the various components, time travel and dragons, and that has been interesting. I guess something else I will just put in there, because I did mention it in the first update that I gave you guys, was this component of women being treated really poorly in this world, and how Lessa is treated really poorly, even though she is a very capable woman. I do definitely think that if that's something that you're sensitive to, that's something that really bothers you in stories, please look up trigger warnings, look up some reviews for this, because I do think that if you don't go into it knowing that those things are going to happen, it could be rather jarring. I think that because I had been warned, I had an expectation and I thought it was going to be worse than it was. But they definitely treat Lessa in certain circumstances like she is a hysterical woman and literally shake her to get her to break out of it or whatever. And the other women in the community are also not treated very well. However, at the end of the story, you do have this component of what happens, kind of bringing to light some of the things that Lessa has been pushing for the entire book, which I did find very satisfying. So in that regard, I did like where we came kind of full circle with some of the things that we were originally having issues with. So that was fun to see. So anyway, that's it for me for Dragonflight. I believe that I have one more book for this vlog. If I get to it, the next clip will be another update. I'll see you guys in a bit. I am here with my last book for this vlog, and we are ending on a bang with The Goblin Emperor. I am at 53%, I think. I'm at 253, page 253 out of like 450 pages. So close. I'm a little bit more than halfway. Oh, and guys, so I did go back and look on my Goodreads, and I read this a really long time ago, but I rated this a 4-star, and I think it was before I was doing the like quarter-star ratings or even half-star ratings, and this feels like a 5. So I'm really happy to be rereading it. It definitely has a strong place in my heart because of the fact that I really, really loved the Cemetery of Amalo series with Thara Kelleher, who is a character in The Goblin Emperor, but I think I had forgotten all of the reasons that I really love Maya as a character. So as I said, I'm at 53%. I'm not going to give you guys too many details, but I just want to talk through why I think he is so strong as a character, in my opinion, and why my heart just goes out to him. He feels real. His horror at becoming emperor at the very beginning, you know, he had 3 older brothers. He was not in line for the throne whatsoever. He was treated very badly as a child, and all of a sudden all of his brothers and his father have been killed, and he has to figure out how to rule an empire. And the shock of that felt real. The fact that he went to Setharus, who is a terrible human being, and has treated him very horribly. And he went to him in this very vulnerable moment of, I need you to help me because I don't know what to do in this moment. And there was no blame, even though, you know, afterwards he does talk about like having these brief moments of wanting to kind of rub it in Setharus's face that, yeah, I now have power and you can't do anything. But in that moment of panic, he went to the only person he had. I just thought that was a very humanizing moment for Maya in my eyes, is seeing this 18-year-old boy, essentially, who has never had authority or power thrust into this massive position that he's not prepared for. And he has to go to pretty much his abuser and ask him for help on what to do because he's not sure. And I love, throughout the story, we have him dealing with this relationship with Setharus. He has always lorded over him and always pushed him to do the things that he wanted to do and act the way he wanted to act. And now he can't do that, but he still has this intimidation factor, right? And he's trying to get Maya to do things that he wants him to do and rule the way he wants him to do and help him become powerful within this kingdom, because now he has the opportunity to do that. And the conversations that Maya has within his head, but also with his, I'm not going to be able to pronounce it, but the warriors that he has at his side, in saying that I don't want him anywhere near me. And they take it upon themselves and they're like, well, essentially they ask him, would you like us to get rid of him? And he's like, no, he hasn't done anything wrong. And in his head, he's like, at least not to anyone else. And he has these moments of kind of pulling himself back from the brink and saying, like, I can't get used to lording this over him or thinking cruelty upon this person because it's not, you know, it's not right. The fact that I can do that now because I have authority doesn't mean that it's the right thing to do. And I love those conversations that Maya has. I also, and one of the things I did remember about this read, about loving Maya's character, is the theme of friendship throughout this, that he is so lonely. He doesn't know who he can trust. But that also tacks on to, he doesn't know who he can just be friends with. At the very beginning, he starts having a friendly relationship with the warriors that he has next to him. And their relationship is just quite lovely throughout the story as well with him. But there's a heartbreaking moment when the one who he's closest to and the one who has kind of always been okay with him bending the social etiquette towards them tells him, I can't be your friend. I'm not your friend, and you need to seek friendship elsewhere. And he takes it to heart, but it's also heartbreaking that he has these people that he's come to trust, the people he was kind of clinging to as he was thrust into this really horrible situation. I love that battle with him. Also, you have that shown within this character of Minvetchin that he has, and you see him, who's an opera singer, and you see him kind of connect with her because of how beautiful she is and how friendly she is towards him, and he's drawn to that. And recently there was a discussion surrounding her character that just really, really is heartbreaking for him. But it also shows how quick-witted he is and how clever he is, how able he is to assess the surroundings and the people around him. And I think that goes into, and he even discusses it, that one of the reasons he knows his way around a conversation, at least when someone is trying to get something out of him, because he grew up with an abusive home and he learned very quickly the social cues to get himself out of certain situations and away from certain situations, and what to say to placate people, what to not say, which is just devastating. But I guess what I'm trying to say with all of this, I've been talking to you guys for a really long time, and I don't need to talk that long about this, but I really love Maya's character in this. I love the relationships and the conversations that he has throughout the story. But also, and I will just say this really quickly and I'll stop talking at you and I'll get back to reading, I also really love the politics in this. The fact that we are dealing with Maya, who has no history with the court, and he doesn't know all of the nuances of how this society works, how goblins and elves live together, but there are definite strifes between them. You also have some trade politicking going on. You have nobles, you have people who obviously are in government and want to stay in power. You have people who are at the mercy of the court now that his brothers and his father are dead. There's all of these things that play into this kingdom, and I think it is done so well because of the fact that we are living it with him. We don't know either, right? And I think there's some really excellent characters that come along that are put into his path that help him through, and sometimes don't help him through these situations. But I just freaking love this book and I can't wait to finish it, but definitely feels like a 5-star at this point. I don't know that anything could happen with the rest of the story that would make me change my mind. I just am absolutely loving it. So I'm going to get back to this. I will come back to you when I have my final update. I am here to finish out this vlog with my final update for The Goblin Emperor, and guys, this is a 5-star read. I don't know what I was thinking when I originally gave this in the 4-star range when I first read it. I love this book. I will reread this book time and time again. I honestly think that this has a top spot. Maybe not top spot. I don't know. It's up there with The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue for me, which is an all-time favorite book. And after, or I guess before my reread of this, I thought that this was one of my favorites. I did not believe it to be an all-time favorite or like a favorite of a lifetime. And I do at this point believe that this book will live with me for my lifetime. And I will continue to come back to it because it is so comforting. I love the relationships that are built within this. I love the conversations that are had around trying to be the best human that you can be, or in this case, the best half goblin, half elf that you can be, best emperor that you can be, and helping others with change while you yourself are adapting. I really, really loved it. The politics behind the kingdom, the nuances that Catherine Addison goes into with the little details that we don't know and that Maya doesn't know within this kingdom, and how they're brought to light, how we get to interact with them and see Maya have these... I don't want to give too much away about what exactly happens, but there's a specific project that is throughout a lot of this that you get to see at the end come to fruition. And it's very fun to kind of see the light in his eyes as he sees things come to pass. And I lived it with him. Like, I feel as though when I read these stories, the Goblin Emperor, also the Cemeteries of Amalur series, I am immersed 100% in the world, and I couldn't be happier to be there. This 18-year-old half goblin, half elf, who is just trying his best and feels at the beginning of this story like he is drowning and is desperate for anyone to help and any guidance that he can receive. Where he comes, the arc that he comes, like the arc that his story has throughout this book is beautifully written. And I just love where he ends up. One of my favorite sentiments that I had completely forgotten about is within the last paragraph of this book, and it talks about building bridges. I'm not going to say any more than that, but it is so well done. It made me cry. There were multiple moments in this book as I was listening. I had to be careful about when I was listening to certain chapters because I was listening to some of this on audio, and then I immersively read some of it. But I had to be careful where I was reading it because I would just burst out crying, and not necessarily in a sad way. Some of it was sad, but some of it's just heartwarming that he can have these conversations with people and make changes that he didn't believe himself capable of at the beginning of the story. I've just been gushing, but I absolutely love this book. It is fantastic. And if you are someone who enjoys maybe a slower paced story, but you love characters, the characters in this book are absolutely phenomenal. I know that a lot of people do struggle with the names of the characters within this book, especially if you are reading physically. I do recommend the audiobooks. I think they're excellent, but I think once you get used to the, I guess, structure of the names in the book, I do think that it's easier, but the audiobook, for me at least, did help me kind of differentiate the characters as well. And the reread honestly helped because I could focus more on the little details of the like character names, like really minuscule character names, versus, you know, paying attention to the bigger items that I needed to the first time around. So very, very well-deserved 5-star. This is my first 5-star of 2026, so I'm very excited about that. It's a good way to end the vlog. I'm glad that I got to reread this early in this year because this is absolutely lovely. And I hope that maybe some of you who haven't read it, this will be kind of your hint that you need to pick it up now. So just to recap, I did have 3 books that I read within this vlog, and then one that I just want to mention. I did end up trying the Curse of Chalion in this video. I didn't actually film any of it because I only got, I think, maybe 20% of the way into that book, and I did decide to move on from it. So I did end up DNFing the Curse of Chalion, just so you guys know. That was a Thanksgiving recommendation. The reason I didn't end up reading that book until the end is that book has a relationship between a 19-year-old and I think a 35-year-old in it. And even though from the reviews that I read on it, it seems like the romance is very much a slow burn and there are conversations surrounding the age gap within. It's supposed to be a very sweet romance, not a very spicy romance. I just couldn't get past the age gap. Not something that I want to read. So the world also wasn't grabbing me as much as it would have needed to distract me from the romance that was happening. It was also just kind of awkward. And I think it's supposed to be the man who is the 35-year-old. He is, he's just kind of bumbling a little bit, and he is supposed to be, but it makes the romance moments awkward and uncomfortable, which to me they're already awkward and uncomfortable because of the age gap. And so it's just not a series for me. So for the wrap up, I did end up reading 4 of your suggestions. The first was the DNF of Curse of Chalion, which I didn't end up filming any of because I only got to 20%. I also read the Rosemary and Rue book, which was a 2.5 star, Dragonflight, which is a 3.5 star, and finishing off with Goblin Emperor, which was a 5 star. I do really want to thank you guys for these recommendations, even if the book that I read from your recommendation didn't receive the highest rating or the rating that you wanted it to receive. I do still want to thank you for providing me that recommendation, because a lot of these books I probably wouldn't have picked up without you guys pushing me to do so, and it really does help me figure out what my reading tastes are. It helps me hone in on the things that I really like and the things that I don't like. It helps me get out of my comfort zone, which is always a good thing. So thank you guys so much for the recommendations. I would love to chat with you guys in the comments about any of these books if you have read them and have comments on what you thought about them. If your thoughts differ than mine, I would love to have a conversation with you there. If you aren't feeling chatty, but you still want to let me know that you're here, leave me a little green heart emoji for the Goblin Emperor, just so I know that you guys are with me. Thank you so much for watching this vlog. I hope you have a lovely evening, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!